Hey everybody, it's Jason back at you with another exciting video. So today we're going to do an advanced flux core welding techniques video and featuring of course the Harbor Freight Titanium 125 flux core machine. But also at the end of the video, I'm going to fire up my bigger flux core machine. We're going to hook it up to 220 and I'm going to show you the capabilities of that so that you can see that flux core is a very capable process. If you haven't watched the first video, I really suggest you watching that first because I'm going to make a lot of references to it. And I'm going to put a link down below to that video so that you can go watch it and come back to this. I'm also going to put a link right here at the end of the video so that you can go watch it. But it's not labeled part one because I didn't know I was going to be doing a part two. But it's called How to Weld Like a Pro with the Titanium Flux 125. And it turned out to be a pretty popular video. I think 4 months ago I put that out and it's got like 47,000 views. I really appreciate it. I appreciate all the comments everybody's been leaving also. And before I forget, we are using the OSA microphone. This is it clipped to my hat. Let me know what you think of it because I'm trying to do everything I can to make the audio of these videos a lot better. And you don't have to tell me how annoying the cars are out on the street. I know. When it takes me 25 takes just to do this intro, believe me, I know, but I pay a premium price to be on this street because of the traffic. And while it's not optimum for video making, it's optimum for my business. But so let's fire up old Sparky here and let's get busy. Okay, so the first thing that we're going to do is we're going to do this piece here that is, so we've got 3/8 on the bottom and we have 1/8 on the top. And so we're welding thinner stuff to thicker stuff. Somebody asked me, how do I know what settings I want to use? I find that the chart inside the machine under the cover is pretty darn accurate. And then you can adjust from there. Um, when you have thick and thin, what I like to do is set it somewhere in the middle of the two settings. And but I'm going to concentrate my heat on the thicker part. Now, what I mean by that, so for this example, we're going to do little circles. And you've seen in my video that, I went like this and came up and went like this and came up and cross here and came up. So if you look at when you draw circles, you're here at the bottom and then you make a loop at the top and then you're back at the bottom again and you travel and then you make another loop and then you travel and you make another loop. You're make the part of your circles that you're traveling the most on, make those on the bottom or on the thicker piece. If your thicker piece was up here, you would want to go this way, travel this way, and then loop down, and then travel this way. That way you're getting more heat and more weld into the thicker part. So for this example, we're going to travel the most at the bottom and loop up and like this and then loop up. And of course, this is exaggerated, but you'll see what I mean in a minute. But, do the most of your traveling at the bottom. All right, let me grab my gear and I'll show you what that looks like. Okay, let me get that cleaned up with the wire wheel. We'll see what it looks like. Okay, when I clean my welds up, I like to use one of these. It's just a wire wheel that you can put on an angle grinder, and sometimes you'll see this listed as a knotted wheel or a twisted wire wheel, something like that. But you want to use a wheel. You don't want to use one of those little tiny little shiny brass cups that you put on a drill. It just doesn't have the power to knock this slag off. But you want to get you a good wire wheel that you can, really push in there and work it hard. Wow, that's a good looking weld. Let me see if I can get a close up. All right, there you go. That is a good looking weld. And again, that's 3/16 an eighth of an inch. And that's a pretty impressive weld for a flux core. And again, notice I don't have a bunch of spatter all over the place. And if you look at that first video, you'll see why. Okay, so on that first video, I talked about your wire stick out, how close you are to the, um, your work. I usually start about half inch back, and then when my weld starts, I'll move on in. When I'm doing it, when I stopped, this is what my stick out was. I mean, that's literally about an eighth of an inch. Let me check it on here. Yeah, that's exactly an eighth of an inch. Now you don't want to start. You don't want to start at an eighth of an inch. Start it off at about, well, that's too far. Maybe start it off about this far out. But when you start welding, once you pull that trigger, go on into it. Don't be floating around up here, way up here. That's what's going to give you your spatter. When I get it going and I stop, that's usually what my stick out winds up being. So that tells me right there that, that whole time I did that, I was at an eighth of an inch. And you can see here, I don't have any spatter on the top or the bottom. And no, I did not spray this with anti-spatter spray. I did take my wire wheel and I cleaned up. I tried to get the mill scale off this thicker piece, and then I cleaned up this piece. But you can see that's a pretty good looking weld. Okay, a couple of days ago, somebody wrote in and they asked about the capabilities of the titanium. Now, the chart lists 3/16 as its highest rating, or its maximum thickness. Anytime a machine tells you something like that, it's assuming that's a single pass. But you can do multiple passes. So what we're going to do on this one, one thing that we haven't done is just going straight. No moving the no manipulation of the torch or anything like that. We're just going to do a straight pattern right here in this middle. Then we're going to come back and we're going to clean it up, and then we're going to run another one just on the outside of that, but still part of that. we'll probably point the wire right at the foot of where the weld meets this, and then we'll do a bead on there, and then we'll clean that up, and then we'll go on top and lay one right in there, and then we'll clean that up, and we'll see how it looks. Um, check check the wire that you're using. Not every wire is suitable for doing multi-pass. Lincoln's flux core wire, the NR211MP, that MP stands for multi-pass, and it is rated for multiple passes. But since we're just doing a sample here, I've got the weld coat wire. I'm using 030 wire. In all of my flux core machines, unless I specifically need thicker wire, I'm always going to run 030 wire. I leave the 035 wire for my MIG machine. But we're going to show you here at the end of the video, so make sure that you stick around. We're going to hook up the big flux core machine with 030 wire, and we're going to weld some seriously thick stuff with that on 220 volts. But so let's do a multiple pass on this. Okay, so this is just a straight pass, what a lot of people just call a stringer pass. We went all in one direction. We didn't manipulate the torch. We just kept on a straight line, and that's what we get right there. Notice it's a little bit thinner than one of the other patterns that you may do, but this is called a stringer pass, and that's a technique that I did not talk about in the first video. All right, so what we're going to do now is we're going to come and we're going to lay another stringer right where this weld meets the material, right there on that crack, all along there, from there to the end, and then we'll clean that up, and that'll be our second pass. Okay, so this is our second pass right here. What we did was we did it at the base of the first pass, and we let the bead of this pass go about halfway up our first pass. So the next one that we're going to do, we're going to do it right there, right where this one meets, and we'll let that go up on this, and it'll spill down on this one. Okay, that's with our third pass. You can see right here on the end, you can see the three. I'll grab my pen. You can see the three. There's 1, 2, 3. Or actually, the first one, second one, and the third one. And I got a little off the mark because I'm trying to work around the tripod, so it didn't do great. So tell you what I'm going to do. I'm going to come right down the middle there, right down that crack right there, and I'm going to fill that in with one more pass. Okay, there you go. That's 4 passes, multi-pass technique. It's not the greatest looking in the world. That's why I don't do multi-pass too often. And again, I was trying to work around the tripod without kicking it. But anyway, that's a multi-pass. Okay, so there's going to come a time when you want to do the inside corner of a vertical joint. If you're using MIG with gas, you want to go back and forth as you go up. If you're using stick welding, you want to go up. Flux core, you can try to go up, but remember, you have to drag because it has slag. So we're going to start up here and we're going to go down. And I know that some of the comments, somebody's going to tell me, "Oh, you got to go down with downhill on, uphill on vertical." Well, yeah, you do with MIG and stick. And if you can do it with your flux core, you probably want to do that too. But for flux core, I find it a lot easier to just start up here. And what we're going to do is we're going to spend a little time on this side, move it over here, spend a little time over there, and go across. You don't want to go too fast because you don't want blob on this side and a blob on this side and just one quick thing, because you're trying to, weld this inside corner also. But for this, I'm going to make my stick out a little bit longer. That's maybe a quarter or 3/8, maybe 3/8, and because I want to be able to get inside in that corner. But let me do that, and then we'll talk about it. Okay, so that's our weld right there. It was See if I can. This is awfully hot. It was like this, but to show it to you better, I'm just laying it down. But this is downhill vertical inside joint, and you can see that's a pretty nice weld. So with this one, what I did, and again, this might be a new technique that I didn't talk about on the first one, but I went down and then I went up and over, and I was doing kind of like upside down smiles, upside down C's, frowny faces, whatever you want to call it. But I just started here. I went across and went down, came back up, went down, came back up, went down, and each time I went a little bit further on the weld. And that is how I do. Again, I have to preface that, but again, that's how I do it inside downhill corner joint. Okay, for that joint that we just did, the chart for 1/8 inch lists for 030 wire, it says 6 and E.5 to F.5. Now, when you're going downhill like that, you want to turn your voltage down just a little bit. You want to turn your wire speed down a little bit. So what I wound up doing, my settings, is I put it on E5 or E.5, and I turn my wire speed down to 5. So I could have probably done E5 for that, even though the chart is suggesting E.5 to F.5 and wire speed of 6. That's when you're going downhill. Remember, you're going downhill. You're going like this, back and forth, making those little upside down C's or little frowny faces. And the whole time you're moving, gravity is wanting to pull that slag down, all right, and pull your puddle down. So you want to make sure that you turn everything down a little bit to compensate for that. So that's what I used on that joint. That was 1/8 inch vertical inside corner joint, and my settings are E5, and that turned out okay. Okay, for this next example, we're going to do 1/2 inch. 1/2 inch, and I've taken my grinder and I beveled an edge on there about 45 degrees for about half its thickness. See right there? And we're gonna weld it to this 1/2 inch plate. And this is not using the titanium. This is using the Prime Weld 160 TS on 220 volts. And I've got a video about this machine doing flux core on my channel, and I'll put a link right here at the bottom at the end of the of this video, so you can check that out. But what we're going to do, see, so we've beveled this, so I'm going to come in here and I'm going to fill in this bevel. I'm going to clean it up, and then I'm going to do my thing on the outside, and then we're going to take a look at it. And the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put 2 tacks on the back. this bottom part where I beveled it, I did the whip and pause, where I came over, waited, let it fill up, came over again, wait, let it fill up, came over again, and I just repeated that all the way down. Okay, so that's a pretty good weld. There is one spot right there where my finger slipped off of the trigger, so I had a little start and stop right there. But anyway, that's not bad, and that filled in the bevel. But this isn't good enough. So now we've got to make another pass, and this time I'm going to go from this side over to this side, and I'm probably just going to do a weave pass, just back and forth like this. Oh, this is hot. Okay, so I had that at 22 volts, 395 inches per minute, and it was a little hot. And that's what caused this hole, this hole, this hole, a couple little spots of porosity right there. And I think that was just, I had my temperature way high. Let me get a close up. All right, there you go. Still a good looking weld. I don't like this little spot right there, or this one, or this one, and that's, I think that's from me having my heat too high, and it was literally bubbling. Uh, that was at 22 volts. I probably could have gotten by with maybe 21, maybe 20 and a half, something like that. But yeah, that's I didn't clean the ends, but see if we can see inside there. No, I didn't. I didn't fill in my ends, but that's not what I was trying to show you. But that's a pretty good weld, and that is on. Let me put my pin on here for reference. Yeah. Okay, well, there you go. There's some more techniques for you. We did thick to thin. Oh, I meant to do thin to thin, like for body work, but I don't have any of that material around. When I get some more material that's thin, I'll show you how to use the titanium on that to do some body work. But anyway, that last one, that half inch, I wouldn't have even, you know, I wouldn't have tried to do that with flux core. I would have done it with MIG or stick. Um, Especially out in the field on a mobile call, that would have been stick all day long. But I just wanted to show that to you because it's kind of fun. But anyway, uh, leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think about these new microphones, if they helped any. I've got some other ones that I'll use on the next video, but I'm trying my best. And you may have noticed that I had I had one guy uh, on another video. He said, "Oh, my eyes! I should have grabbed my helmet." So this time I used, that was a number 13 shade that I used on that, and you can see that that's was it 13? I'm sorry, it may have been a 10, but anyway, I'm working on getting it so that you can actually see the puddle. But if you can't see the puddle, you can see, how my gun moves, and you can get a good idea from that. If you actually need to see the actual puddle, then you need to go practice your welding some more because it's not that important. Um, but there are some cameras out there that will show the puddle, and I know y'all have seen them, but they are extremely expensive, and they're high dollar. And if you want to start a GoFundMe page for me to get that camera, I'd be glad to use it. But until then, I'm just going to do the best I can to make it where you can actually see it a little better. So I think that was a 10 filter. So next time I'm over at the welding supply place, I'll pop in and grab a 13, see what that does, and maybe there's something I can do in the editing. Anyway, I appreciate y'all watching. I hope you learned something. Watch the other video. I'm going to put a link up here. Um, uh, and, leave a comment, ask questions. If you're a subscriber to this channel, you know that I answer every single comment that comes along. And if you want to, you can go to my main page and go over to where it says community, and I've left my email on there. So you're welcome to email me, um, anything. But leave a comment, ask questions. Y'all have a good weekend.